Isaac?
I think go ahead and start.
In July 2021, council received public comment about fireworks. A gentleman from the community came in, made a pretty passionate speech about his experiences around fireworks, and pursuant to that, there was a request to bring some information forward so there could be a discussion on council about fireworks in the city. So just in brief, our municipal code does not prohibit fireworks in the city. Fireworks are regulated by the state of Oregon through the state fire marshal, and at times also through local fire marshal. Fireworks is a kind of a touchy topic, to be blunt. They're very popular, well loved by a lot of people, but there are also some other implications. They cause wildfires. But PTSD can have strong reactions. Animals can have reactions. We looked at other cities, what they do. The responses varied. A lot of them adopt us as written. A lot of them ban illegal fireworks, which are already illegal. Kind of really in this situation, there's not really any path forward. Fireworks are difficult to monitor and difficult to enforce. Sometimes by the time the police departments get word of a firework being set off, it's already done. People have already left the scene. Sometimes it's hard to locate where they're at. For example, illegal fireworks are illegal, but people still have them. They still get them and they still set them off. Very little consequence. So if the city, for some reason, was to actually ban them, it likely would be hard to actually have that make a change. People could just drive up the road to St. Helens and come here and choose now. Because the issue is complicated, we asked our law enforcement partners, rural fire district, here to talk about questions.
Mr. Mayor, I first just want to thank you, Isaac, and those experts in the room for taking the time to address this concern of our citizen. I know when people come in front of us, they expect to get some sort of a response and I don't think it's wasted time if we have a discussion and in the end, nothing happens. But I think honoring that space in here and having these discussions is important for our community. I have my own personal opinions, but perhaps maybe others have questions or comments first. I'll open it up.
Mr. Mayor. So I did reach out to John, and unfortunately he couldn't make it tonight because I thought that he might have some more information to add to tonight for us to consider. I certainly don't know what the answer is to this. It's a complicated topic because we don't want to trample on people's fun, and I think you captured it well in your description here. So I certainly don't know what the answer is this, but I know last year it was a concern, especially because it was very dry.
Becoming more common too that fireworks are being banned at a local level or a state level year over year. So sometimes even without councils acting, banned anyways. And that's most likely to continue to be of the cities I found. There was only one city that outright bans them. A lot of them do a half measure where they will say they're only allowed during these days or.
And just for the record, I have a question for Chief Pritchard. I don't know if you're able to answer it in a microphone, because I'm sure some citizens will listen later. You took the time to come. Yeah. My question is, if it does come to a point where it's not safe weather-wise, conditions are too dry, and it becomes that, we need to ban fireworks for the 4th of July season or whatever. Do you personally make that decision, or how does the city get its information on how to do that?
Very complicated question you just asked. When it comes to putting a ban on for fireworks, the only organization that can do that for us is the state fire marshal's office. Unless there is a city or other government entity that decides they are banning use and or sale of fireworks. So when When we do have authority is through permitting processes. So if somebody is going to do a fireworks show, a professional fireworks show, we do have the ability to cut it off. And a lot of times we talk to the organizers ahead of time. Basically like, look, if the wind hits 15, 20 miles an hour, we're going to have to shut you down because there's no way to protect everybody from the fallout of the fireworks in the event that there's a misfire or something else happens.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, question for, I guess, staff would be, do we have restrictions on what days fireworks are allowed to be used?
You know, I mean, that's something that you could set up. And the trend that I'm seeing is increased regulation by cities as cities become aware that their fire departments can't, either working in concert with their fire departments or just when they realize their fire chief can't just say, we're not going to allow this and have it happen. The other thing too is that they might allow a category of fireworks like a sparkler, but not allow, stuff that spins or, and I think that the cities that have done that, it's that they want people to be able to celebrate, particularly children, celebrate 4th of July, but they realize that with really dry conditions, they just need to be a lot more careful. So if someone's got a sparkler in the middle of the cul-de-sac, there's very little risk. But if you have these like ground flowers and things that spin, go everywhere, the bigger it gets, the more risk there is.
Mr. Mayor. As far as the enforcement side is concerned, obviously that's where we're probably going to run into issues, is being able to actually enforce these things for a variety of different reasons. Does the fire district have the authority to cite for fireworks violations? Let's say, for example, we decide we want to do like an ordinance or something like that. Could we do something that gives the fire district the authority to also assist our law enforcement to enforce the ordinance? Because my concern is that, okay, great, we set this up, but we're not going to be able, the realistic part of being able to enforce it is a different thing. That said, though, there is value in having these things just on the books too, because if something does happen, you also have that to fall back on in prosecuting somebody as well.
Okay, so I'll take a quick stab at that.
Sorry.
That was kind of a long question. First and foremost, the fire district has zero authority in enforcing anything related to fireworks. We do not have police powers. And it's kind of silly because we're one of the groups that has to try and enforce fireworks, but we can't do anything. We have to rely on law enforcement, which is kind of a weird way the state decided to roll the rule out. That said, is there a way for the fire district to work in concert with the city? I would say the answer is yes, but I would have to direct that to the city attorney because the city would have to enter into an agreement with the fire district to give us some code enforcement ability to be able to cite people into municipal court. It's not unheard of. It does happen in other parts of the state, but I mean, that's something that I would have to approach my bosses with. Say, do you want to take on that liability? And the extra training for a couple of our staff. Not all our staff would be able to participate in that level of training.
So we would need to get an intergovernmental agreement with the fire district, and we would have to essentially deputize the firefighters for a limited duration so that they could have that enforcement power. And that would be the workaround unless the legislature changes the law and makes the experts in fire in charge of fireworks.
So
It is kind of funny because
Keyword fire.
right. Well, I do feel sorry for my law enforcement partners in this particular situation because let's face it, the times where this is really an issue is 4th of July and New Year's. Do we really want law enforcement out there trying to catch people who are blowing up fireworks when we know there's other things like people with mental health issues that really need more help, or people who are driving under the influence and causing more of a hazard to the greater community as a whole? I don't want to speak up for law enforcement, but these are the things that we see. And it is really a nuisance. When you look at the statistics, the reality is there's not too many fires that start in neighborhoods as a result of legal fireworks. It's the illegal fireworks that are usually the problem. And unfortunately, when there is an incident, it's even more of a rarity to see, as Councilor Miller pointed out, folks to be prosecuted, push beyond, just a citation. And I think that's something that also needs to be considered because, I mean, you're going to have rules, you got to enforce them. If you're going to have rules and not enforce them, then what's the point of having the rule?
John Ryuta spoke to us several months ago about this issue, and I just reread what he's written down here. He makes some really good points, and he lays it out quite well. It's a very difficult thing to monitor and and particularly at the times like you've already stated, the 4th of July and New Year's Eve, there might be more important things going on. But he does mention, and it seems like he had enough documentation that there were illegal fireworks being used on the 4th of July last year, and that was his concern. And I don't know how to go about that, but if it's possible in some manner to have some visible presence in the neighborhood, particularly in the neighborhood where John lives, because that seems to be where most of the complaints have come from. That might be a thought. I know there are more important things, if you stated, and I certainly agree with that 100%. But it might be that it's possible to do both. I don't know if there aren't any, pressing calls at that moment, and if we have an increased police force and deputize some of our fire department people, we might be able to have a visibility presence in the neighborhood.
I have a question. All right, you're more important, so go ahead.
No.
It just makes me think of like community policing and proactive engagement and whatnot. And I just thought of something that I think probably is so bizarre. But do you ever patrol? Like, do you ever, I don't see you, but not you, but like in a Chiefs rig, or I wouldn't say like in a big engine, but like on the 4th of July, are you guys ever just driving around? I mean, it seems like our response and our presence as a police department is so much different. I don't want to be like, you're just sitting around waiting to be called. That's not what I'm trying to paint the picture of. No, not at all. I don't have an opinion.
Right now.
I just didn't want it to come across that way. Whatever. Anyways,
You do your job very well.
you do. Yeah. I just like, that was a weird thing that I thought, oh, do they patrol on the, or do they just like cruise around looking for fire? Probably not, but
Well, we do. When we get a lot of nuisance calls throughout the summer for smoke in the area is what they call it. It could be from fireworks. It could be, from somebody burning illegally. But early on in my career, one of the places I worked, we would stage fire apparatus in different parts of the city to respond to fires quickly. We had a fire problem. I mean, people were lighting off illegal fireworks. There was the fireworks show, and because of the amount of tourists in the place that we lived, we had to strategically place all the resources so we could get there quickly. We just don't have that that need in our community. That, in addition to, we're frequently out on the ambulance or putting out other fires, brush rigs. I think going back to the question of this particular individual that submitted a complaint, if there was an agreement with the city, I'm pretty sure at least 2 or 3 of the people that light off the illegal fireworks, they would have all their stuff confiscated pretty quick because they usually launch them right below my house. But oh no. It's funny because it happens there, but based on, law enforcement actually has to witness this stuff. We're not law enforcement, so it's not like they can take our word, just the way the laws are written and paperwork and all that. But I do share some of the concerns of that individual because when my child was a year or 2 years old, she was terrified to go outside in the summer because she was afraid of the fireworks because they make big booms, and when the fireworks exploded, it was right at the level of our house. So I do sympathize.
That's fair. For, Chief, are you talking about, John's, where John lives,
I don't know the particular location, but I don't want to call anybody out in open meetings. So.
it's Keys Drive is where the fireworks coming from. And that is to some of the points that have been made here tonight. And I live right there as well. And I was seeing them personally as well. They are definitely illegal fireworks. And so, to some of the points that have been made tonight, they are legal. They're not legal fireworks that are causing the issues. And the other piece with this specific incident is that it's recurring. It's year after year. So I did have a brief conversation with City Manager Rains about this and trying to figure out, kind of just had a brainstorming session about how we might possibly be proactive with that one individual. And I don't think we came up with any like one solid or good solution to it. But I think the answer, if anything here, is that we figure out a way to deal with that one individual, because it is a recurring issue and they're definitely illegal fireworks.
Well, Mr. Mayor, Council, perhaps depending on the decision, if any decisions made this evening, offline, the fire district would be more than happy working with law enforcement to come up with a strategy and a solution.
I was going to just follow up with what Councilor Miller said, is that if we know there's the problem, there's got to be where we can proactively go, hey, guess what we're doing tonight? We got a patrol officer that's going to go up there every 20 minutes.
Well, if we had
We don't
a,
even have to do that. We just have to tell them that we're going to do
the first firework that they launch, if they launch, the rest of the fireworks can be confiscated because these are illegal fireworks in the state. If they fly up into the air in the state of Oregon, they're illegal. So it's not difficult to determine what's legal and what's illegal. And, I think though, by saying if they were told we're deputizing our firefighters, and as soon as you launch something into the air, the rest of your stuff's going to be confiscated and you're going to be cited, so that they understand that enforcement's going to happen, even if it hasn't happened previously. And that's going to incentivize them not to engage in the illegal activity.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, we're kind of headed in the right direction and thought process, because I think really what it comes down to is the legal side, not necessarily the legal side. I think fireworks is a way to celebrate, but I think we have a code that's in place that says, certain fireworks are illegal, and so does the state. And we have a way that we can at least have more of a presence. Maybe that's the best direction for us to go, if it's possible, and if we can work that out.
I have a question for Peter. So on Exhibit C, it tells us what other jurisdictions have in place in terms of their language in regards to code for the fireworks. And then Exhibit B is ORS Chapter 480 that goes over everything. So if we were on this chart, it would just say Scappoose adopts ORS 480, but we don't have any of the other things underneath it, like fireworks exempt from noise ordinance. We don't have that. Yeah. So these are some things that I would like to add, just so we do have more language.
So would you want the people to be cited under the noise ordinance for fireworks?
No.
Okay.
Because it says it says they're exempt from the noise ordinance.
Or some exempt it, some do not.
Yeah.
They're exempted.
I think it's an exemption. I mean, they're allowed. How do you, they're off within how many seconds, and then how do you know what the number, okay. I do want to say something, and maybe it does in this ORS and I'm just not paying attention to the details, but something where some of these say like not in city parks or something like that, something that's very specific about like that this isn't I know it's hard to say like city property, but that's like a street too. So but you can set off fireworks, but you need to do it like in your own private space. Like you can't go down to Veterans Park and be lighting off fireworks. Whatever
So ban the use of fireworks
in city, but also I
without
don't,
a permit. I always want it.
Well, I would,
do I have to have a permit to light them in the street in front of my house? So,
what about expanding on that though, and it has to be away from grass or something dry? That's where the concern comes from, and the alarm is these people that are carelessly setting these fireworks off, not the people that are doing it, using due diligence and caution. That's what John's big complaint was too, is that they're shooting them right over 200-foot fir trees in a valley. I mean, his concern was very legitimate.
so I would want to see some sort of language about on what sort of property they can do this on, and it's not ours. But I feel like it's kind of too narrow if it only says city parks. And then I personally would prefer to have dates. So for me, I would say you're allowed to do this December 31st, January 1st, and just a few day window around the 4th of July, like the 2nd through the 5th.
John Adams said the second.
Those are just my personal bits.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
In regards to the individual that we know that's an issue, and this is something that I think we need to work with legal counsel on to see if it's a good idea. And what about sending them a certified letter or being proactive in some way? Maybe it doesn't need to be a letter. Maybe it needs to be a, hey, will you come to City Hall and have a meeting with us? And try to be proactive about it rather than taking the enforcement approach to it.
I mean, I think just saying that we have received several complaints that from people who have observed you lighting and shooting off illegal fireworks, and this has happened on an ongoing basis. And that we want to let you know that this year, if that happens, we're going to take enforcement action. Really gives the person every opportunity to do the right thing. And then, if enforcement action needs to occur, it's not like we were lying in wait and, we've told them we have credible reports that you've engaged in the activity. There are at least 3 witnesses who state that they've seen it and they all know what illegal fireworks are, not this year. If I think that if we've given any individual that we're aware of that kind of warning, and then at that point they know what will happen if they engage in the behavior.
So in my personal opinion, there's so many more people than just that situation that light illegal fireworks every year during the 4th of July or any other point in time. So
Yeah.
I think it's in our best interest if we add some more detailed language that will help us, number one, with enforcement, but also like clearly stated here,
Right.
we've gone the extra step to make sure that this is written here.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to be clear that I agree with Council President Grice on what she's saying. I'm just saying in addition for this one problem that we know of, that we try to be proactive in addressing that.
The other thing is that we can go on social media and let everybody know, we want people to have fun on 4th of July, but they need to follow the law. And, the risk of wildfires and fires in the city seems like it continues to go up. And so if we end up entering into an IGA with the firefighters and, deputizing them for the limited duration, we'd want to advertise that as well so that people know we're proactively going to try and stop you from doing this. And because we have I think people generally know of what they can get away with and what they can't get away with. And so this would change that.
I would also echo in that thought process on doing a coordinated advertising campaign. And it would be great to do it jointly between the fire district and the city. We could make it fun, whether it be video, a couple photos, but
Leave that up to you. I mean, if fire's involved, it's just safer that you guys are doing it than us.
Just make a motion that you handle everything.
Timeout.
Yeah. I agree on that, and I think that that is an initiative that we'd all be in support of.
I agree with what Counselor Megan and Tyler have said. I'm wondering if we can ask staff to take this information and come up with some language that we could put together as a plan to approach this and maybe look at it at our next meeting.
Yes, that would be the plan. Given the date, we have very limited time to do this, so it would have to be done very quickly. So there wouldn't be a lot of time to go back and forth, but yeah, I mean, we can definitely sit down and put together some information and work with Chief Pritchard and get back to you all on the 6th.
I was just gonna say I think the idea of the IGA would be a great idea as well. I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but at least
Well,
investigating that.
Yeah, I took notes on all of that, and I would be interested in looking at all of that and bringing back to you, even if we thought something wasn't possible this year just because of timing, well, we could do it for next year, but just looking at all of it holistically so that we can get back to you on all the points that have been made.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
All right. Work session adjourned. Back in 4 minutes.